Hey guys, welcome to this week's Beast Lab. So pretty exciting stuff. As we approach the fall, I always get pumped because new equipment's on the way. And if you've been to a Face Off Academy event in the last year, you very well likely would have spoken to a Maverik rep at some point as they were preparing to drop their newest addition to their lineup, which is the Maverik Lock Face Off specific head. It's been in the works for a long time. I know they put a ton of R&D into it. So here's the box that came today. And I'm gonna give you guys the spec review of the Maverik Lock. As I always do with most heads that come out on the market, we do a two-part review. First, we do the spec review, where we talk about the head, we talk about what the manufacturer is shooting for, and then we follow it up with a performance review after I and my FO athletes have rigorously tested it and trained with it so that we can give you a very detailed look at exactly what the pros and cons are. So the Maverik Lock comes in a bunch of different colors: white, black, gray, and then also like a very cool blue color, a bright blue color, which is pretty unique to come out of the box with that many colors. So I give them credit for that. It's awesome. Like I said, they did a ton of R&D on this. They've really gone by and really gotten the opinions of a lot of pro guys as well as high school and college. So this head has been in the works for some time. So first I'm going to give you a face view of it. Okay, you can tell by the face shape, nothing too out of the ordinary. Unlike a couple of the heads that have hit the market this past year, this is not an asymmetrical sidewall head. This is a symmetrical sidewall head. All right, for those of you guys who are used to that. Okay, tell by a scoop. All right, so some things you're going to be able to notice right off the bat, and some things you're not. So let's just go down the list of what they were shooting for. So with this head, the biggest thing is that they're looking for, they use this term called flex rail technology. And with the flex rail technology, the idea is to have a head that's built so that it has a consistent flex point all the time. Now, where is the flex point? We're not sure yet because we haven't beaten this thing up. But looking at the trestles, you would assume that generally wherever a trestle hits is kind of where a head will have its flex point. So either it's going to be strong on the throat or it's going to be a little high up. This looks like this is designed to peel back, to give you this throat. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because when I hold this, where my fingers are and down, is immovable. It's really strong, which personally I think is great for heads. So this is a beast down here. And then you can feel a complete difference in tension once you get here because there's no trestle, right? So they're both going away, and you have this trestle right here on either side of it, and it flexes in to, I guess the idea is to cut down and wrap around the ball. So this is a brick. It's awesome. I like that a lot. So just feeling where they put the tension and where they put the trestles, this is obviously the strong part of this head, big time. And then it gets softer in the middle. And then this at the top is really strong. So that's cool. Strong, and then movable in the middle. And that's kind of what you're shooting for with an elite level face-off head. So that's pretty cool. Their goal is to have a head that doesn't kink in weird spots. It constantly bends at the same spot all the time. So obviously that's something high to shoot for. That's good hopes right there. Secondly, they obviously have a performance scoop. Like every of the heads that have come out lately, everyone's looking for a more performance scoop. If you remember the original Duel, great face-off head, kind of set the standard right off the bat for face-off specific heads, but the knock on it was constantly its scoop. It was kind of flat, and it would kind of get stuck in the ground because it was flimsier up top. So all of these new heads now have that in mind, where this is strong. It kind of slopes in the middle so that you can get ground balls easy. And you don't want this to be bending all over the place because it's going to hit the turf and the grass, especially in the hotter months. So you need something consistent there. The next thing they're looking for is tension lock. They use this term tension lock because you can see all of these string holes, they're squares. They're designed for durability, but there's a million of them. And the idea was to give you a ton of different stringing options. All you guys who are stringer heads out there are going to appreciate that. So there's a lot of different ways to string this head based on where all these squares are. So that's pretty cool. And it doesn't seem to be giving it any issues from a strength perspective. This is a very thick rail, so I think it's going to hold up pretty well. And then also, you have people like the Weapon X and the String King heads that have provided a lot of holes, and they have proven that they hold up over time. So I don't think, seeing a bunch of sidewall holes weirds us out anymore, especially when you look at the OG Blade. It had very minimal sidewall holes, and the thing cracked instantly. So this is something, this is definitely a step in the right direction for sure for all you guys who like to string. Obviously the shortened throat, This is standard now, okay? So what is interesting is it's a shortened throat, and it's got 3 holes, but no insertable plug. So the durability down here, I mean, like I said, this is really thick plastic and strong. I don't see this being an issue of it coming off of an alloy head for certain, but if you have a head that's not an insertable throat and you are going to try to use a carbon fiber shaft, I have seen shafts like that tear when there's nothing, when they have a face-off specific head. So I'm interested to see what happens with no insertable throat. But obviously the Under Armour head, the String King head, no issues with no insertable throat. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. I think we have figured out the engineering to that by now. So that's totally fine. And then, so this level 2 bottom rail, what they're going for with this is basically they want you to have, so when you go with bottom rail here on both sides, the head that they're shooting for, they want you to look for a mid to low pocket. And I think the reason we find that is, like I said, there's a ton of R&D. Most face-off guys, at least like for myself, for years, we want a low to mid pocket, because you're not going to see many face-off guys string a high pocket. Reason being is then you don't really have mesh to push in down here. You want a full cup. So you want that mesh to be pushed in down here. And if your mesh bag's in that much at the bottom, there's a really good chance that you're gonna have a mid or low pocket. So they're basically giving you the string hole options down here designed for a mid to low pocket as a carrying face-off man who can play on the field as well. And then they're calling it Duraflex material. Now that we've seen this new generation of plastics coming out, String King, then Weapon X, and East Coast Dyes have really set the standard now for a head that's expected to last. And the knock on face-off heads for a long time was, when you look at 90% of the market, they either break in and then they become shot and super flimsy, or they break in and then they get stuck and the ball gets stuck in the stick a lot. So what we want is a head, obviously in a perfect world, that wraps around the way we want it to, but is durable and isn't just going to become something that you're jamming a softball into every 2 seconds. Also something that's not going to get a kink in it and be kind of harder to work out over time, similar to the Dual 2, right? The Dual 2, once it got that kink, it was tougher to keep it legal after a while. So I think, that's the plastic they're shooting for, and we'll see. We're going to put it under the test for sure. Now, obviously, this is made in America. I always stick that out because I think that's important. So this is a USA-based created thing that they made here. I just think that I always like to mention that when I can. So I think that's pretty cool. So it's available October 1st. And what we're going to do now is just on the look. So I gave you the specs they're shooting for. Holding it in my hand, I'm going to basically give you what I think so far and what my hypothesis on how this head's going to perform. So I can tell you right now, it is not a face flex head. This is not going to peel back. You can tell by the trestles up here, no way. So this is an oblique pinching head. We use that term all the time. I've been using it for years. Just because if you have a head that's going to squeeze and wrap on an angle like this, that's an oblique bending head. Okay, a head that peels straight back is going to be a face flex like a CEO, CEO2. Even the Burn is a face flex first head, but it has a little bit of an oblique property to it because it has the asymmetrical sidewall at the bottom. Okay, the Weapon X, purely a oblique bending head, String King head, a oblique head. So this is going to be an oblique head. I can tell right away just by holding it. Usually what I do when I want to test a head and I want to see where its flex points are going to be is I take it here, and then I pull it. So I'm going to do that. All right, we can tell right here, just by doing that this whole thing peels up, and this is the strong part right here. So that strong cup, all right, we talked about, super strong. That thing's not bending anywhere. So this head will, on impact, as it meets the other plastic, peel back here, and you'll drive it into the ball, which is awesome. It's got a very low profile, a thin profile, all the way here. Similar, it kind of reminds me of the OG Blade, to be honest, and it'll cut up underneath the ball, which is great. Okay, now for the face flex, okay, I gave it that little pull, but it goes right back to its spot so far, which is great. As far as the scoop is concerned, this thing it's got a shockingly low profile. It's kind of shockingly thin for how strong it feels. So that's pretty cool right off the bat. This is this might not look like it. It might be an optical illusion because the entire Maverik logo is on the front of this head, but this is a very short throat. So you are going to get, the advantage that you get with the other heads. I think at this point we've realized that if you're not going to cut the throat on a head it's probably not a face-off head. I can tell you right now, just looking at this thing, it would probably be a pretty decent FOA head. I mean, you got all the string holes there, and if you have the integrity on the plastic that they're claiming, I don't see why this wouldn't be a very good FOA head. So we'll see, because that's more in demand than it's ever been. Obviously, some trailblazing has happened within the last year to make that part of this thing. Now, the other thing is this has a very good offset. It's got that cant, so it's not a true drop like you would see on the Weapon X, but it does cant big time. So you're going to have an offset feel on this head, so it is going to feel like a MIDI head, which is awesome. So that's a very cool thing to know, because I personally love the feel of an offset, as most offensive players do. That's why offensive heads, pretty much every head on the market is an offset now. So that's why for face-off guys, there's no reason we can't have that kind of advantage when we're playing the field. So it's good to see heads coming out with this offset, which is great. So that's that cant that drops down like that. The trestles, I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated to see how this head performs, not on the 50-50, but on the initial punch-in. When I punch in and saw down, I really want to see how this performs. Now, me personally, I've only gone against this head in one instance. This summer, one player in pro lacrosse was using it. I know a couple guys are claiming that they used it, but there's only one guy out there that really used it. Drew Simino used it this summer for the Chrome. And obviously it's hard to tell when someone says, "Hey, look, I'm using this head versus this head, or this head versus this head." That's not a true test to see if a head is good or not, because you need to use it yourself. Now, Drew is obviously one of the best face-off guys in the world. So when you look at him using it, you're like, okay, yeah, it's a great head. But as far as seeing it in different situations, when I see a high school player use it, when I see a college player use it, when I use it myself, the feel that I get, maybe a player who faces more upfield has less success with it. Maybe a guy who spins around the ball really well. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend this entire week now and have guys of completely different styles using it. So that way we can give you a really good performance review. Because if it's really good for a guy who saws down, that's great. I'm not going to sit here and then say, okay, you should buy this head. But then if a guy who likes to rotate quickly, he finds that the head kind of loses its grab on the ball when he rotates really quick and gives up fast breaks, that's something you're going to need to know. So we're going to do a week review. We're going to spend a lot of time on it so that we can give you a detailed account of exactly how this head performs in a performance situation. But those are the spec reviews, and this is the Maverik lock, baby. And it's for real. It's here. So stay tuned. I'll be dropping the performance review within the week, and once we've gotten our 500 reps under with it. And I expect you guys to be back here. So make sure you click that and subscribe, and you'll be one of the first to see it.